Hi there and good evening. I'm Patrick Fock in Hong Kong. You're watching ViuTV News. Coming up on tonight's show. Pan-Democrats call for Holden Chow impeachment over the UGL Investigation Committee fiasco. Russian President Vladimir Putin says he can prove Donald Trump passed no secrets to Russia in meeting with Sergei Lavrov. And new surveillance laws in China. Fears are they may be used to target dissent. All right, we begin with the latest on the furor over Chief Executive CY Leung's interference with LegCo's probe into the $50 million payment UGL made to him. Pan-Democrats now say DAB lawmaker Holden Chow should be impeached over the fiasco. They say he allowed the chief executive to obstruct LegCo's investigation. Legal sector lawmaker Dennis Kwok said Chow was guilty of misconduct as a legislator and had tarnished LegCo's reputation. Chow is under fire after letting CY Leung amend committee documents. The moves sparked an uproar. Even DAB chair Starry Lee weighed in, calling her fellow party members' actions inappropriate.
If he receives CY's comment, he can suggest CY to contact the committee directly, or if he take that comment with himself, he have to express that to the committee member. That is the comment made by CY. But we have to understand that committee have to communicate with stakeholder from time to time, because it is a fair procedures.
And the committee will be holding a meeting on Friday to discuss the matter. Well, Leung was in a combative mood over the developments. He said lawmaker Kenneth Leung should be barred from the Select Committee, also because of a defamation suit he'd filed against him, adding there was a conflict of interest. The two are embroiled in a lawsuit over remarks Kenneth Leung made about the chief executive over the UGL payments. Kenneth Leung has rejected the comments. And away from the UGL drama, the chief executive met with Pakistani Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif this morning on the second day of his Hong Kong visit. Together with top officials, Leung greeted Sharif at Government House. He told the Pakistani Prime Minister Hong Kong wants to strengthen trade ties with his country and said the city could serve as a bridge for Pakistani businesses to enter mainland China under the Belt and Road Initiative. Sharif told the chief executive he was glad to be back in the city following his first visit 44 years ago to learn about its manufacturing industry. And to other local news now, and the government has asked the Non-Governmental Housing Society to look into the feasibility of building public housing on the periphery of the Tai Lam and Man Shan country parks. The study will assess the ecological and developmental value of the two plots and is expected to take 18 months. The proposal has already drawn criticism from green groups, saying the move would make green areas more susceptible to development. But one former member of the Long-Term Housing Strategy Steering Committee thinks it's worth looking into.
In the past, we have been arguing too much about the idea of rezoning country parks. I think it's a good idea to commission the Housing Society for an actual study. We should shift our focus to the fact that there are 280,000 families on the waiting list for public housing and 90,000 people living in subdivided flats.
Okay, to the US now, and Russian President Vladimir Putin says he can prove that Donald Trump didn't pass on any secrets to Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov. This amid uproar over a leaked memo showing the US president asked the now fired FBI Director James Comey to end a probe into suspected Russian meddling into American politics. Speaking at a news conference, Putin said he was ready to hand a transcript of Lavrov's meeting with Trump to US lawmakers. But as Eve Johnson reports, the news shocked Capitol Hill, with even Republicans demanding to get to the bottom of the scandal.
After bombshell news over the James Comey-Donald Trump memo, lawmakers are demanding to see anything else that might be out there. Representative Jason Chaffetz on Tuesday giving the FBI a May 24th deadline to turn over all records of communication between the ex-FBI chief and the commander-in-chief. Trump asked Comey to shut down an investigation into former National Security Advisor Michael Flynn, saying, quote, "I hope you can let this go." That's according to a Reuters source who saw a memo Comey wrote following his meeting with Trump. And Chaffetz, as chair of the House Oversight Committee, wants to see it too, tweeting, "I need to see it sooner rather than later. I have my subpoena pen ready." Flynn stepped down in February after reports he discussed U.S. sanctions on Russia with Moscow's ambassador before Trump took office, and misled Vice President Mike Pence about the talks. The Comey memo set off alarm bells on Capitol Hill after the New York Times broke the story, raising questions about whether Trump tried to interfere with a federal investigation. The White House quickly denied the report, saying it wasn't a, quote, truthful or accurate portrayal of the conversation. Chaffetz's request is backed by Speaker of the House Paul Ryan, his spokesman saying, quote, we need to have all the facts.
Well, despite the revelations, British Prime Minister Theresa May says the UK still has confidence in its relationship with the US and will continue to share intelligence with its main ally. The question came during a press briefing ahead of Britain's June 8th election, which polls show May is on course to win. As a former Interior Minister who spent 6 years in charge of the domestic security brief, national security is seen as one of May's strengths.
Decisions about what President Trump discusses with anybody that he has in the White House is a matter for President Trump. We continue to work with the United States and continue to share intelligence with the United States, as we do with others around the world, because we are all working together to deal with the threats that we face. The key threat, of course, being the threat of terrorism, predominantly from Daesh, but we must never forget that Al-Qaeda is still out there. So working with the United States and others to deal with that terrorist threat is an important part of maintaining our national security, and we will continue to do so.
News elsewhere now, and the Chinese government has quietly released a new security draft law that will help it to better monitor foreign and domestic criminal suspects. And as Samantha Vardas reports, there are concerns that the law will be used to target dissent.
China getting tougher on security threats inside and outside the country. Beijing on Tuesday releasing its first public draft of a new intelligence law, which would give authorities new powers to investigate foreign and domestic suspects. Reuters' Christian Shepherd says it will also protect the investigators.
The fear for many of the people that are often targeted by the authorities, such as rights activists or lawyers who promote human rights, they often surveilled using techniques which before were considered to be illegal or at least within a legal grey area. This now gives the authorities the ability to point to the law which says that they are allowed to set up such things as video cameras to surveil individuals they consider to be threatening.
China already has a number of security laws which were brought in 2014. What this new one adds is the legal footing for authorities to carry out surveillance, like seizing property, raiding premises and monitoring suspects they deem to be a threat, something Beijing has kept tight-lipped about.
There was no mention of this in state media, and when you search for it on the National People's Congress website, where it should have been readily available, you couldn't find it. You would need to have the link to the draft in order to access it and read the draft law. This differs from other laws which are normally publicized because they want to get as many people as possible commenting on them. It's unclear exactly why they have done this, but one possible explanation is that such issues as intelligence gathering are always very sensitive, regardless of what country you're in, but particularly in China, where you have a very large state apparatus for keeping track of individuals and organizations.
The new measures have stirred up criticism from Western governments, which warn the laws could be used to target dissent.
All right, coming up next, the latest from the world of business. Well, it was another day in the red for the Hong Kong stock market, but it's not all bad news. Let's take a look at the charts. The Hang Seng Index finished the day down just under 0.2% to 25,293. Still, shares are hovering near that 21-month high, which was hit a few days ago. The market was buffeted by a steady flow of money from mainland China, where tough new regulations are taking their toll on investors. Well, we've been bringing you these explosive reports surrounding Donald Trump's dealings with the now former FBI director, and the allegations have spooked Wall Street. US share futures dropped sharply, with the S&P down more than 0.5%. The dollar also weakened. Investors have been banking on Trump pushing through tough stimulus measures, but the snowballing saga surrounding the president is now raising questions about whether he could be charged with obstructing justice. Cathay shares have soared almost 5% as bosses try to explain exactly how they'll turn a profit again. Chairman John Slosser has told shareholders at the annual AGM they're making significant progress in restructuring Hong Kong's premier carrier, but he's refused to go into any real detail about that or potential job cuts, despite reports some staff could be laid off from Friday. Cathay lost $575 million last financial year, most of that down to bad bets on fuel prices. Governments around the world are on alert with fresh fears of more cyber attacks. Shadow Brokers, which claims to have leaked the malicious code behind the WannaCry ransomware worm, is threatening to release even more tools for hackers. The group's promising new codes every month to anyone who's willing to pay for them. Now, Ford is reportedly eyeing off big job cuts to boost profits and stop its share price and those diving even further. As Fred Katayama reports, staff right here in Asia could soon be out of work.
A source says Ford is planning to cut about 10% of jobs in North America and Asia. Most of them will be salaried workers who will get incentives to leave. Ford will not cut its hourly staff. The reductions are part of a previously announced plan to slash costs by $3 billion as Ford adjusts to falling auto sales. Ford declined to comment. Reuters correspondent Joe White says the company is trying to raise its profitability just as Wall Street has given up on it. Its stock has been down almost 40% since Mark Fields became CEO.
Cutting overhead costs, which is what this move to cut salaried staff is all about, is probably just one of a number of moves that Ford is going to have to make as the U.S. market goes downhill. In order to try to prop up its profit margins and demonstrate that it's got room to continue to deliver a dividend and invest in whatever comes next for automobiles.
But the job cuts could put Ford on a collision course with President Donald Trump, who has made boosting auto employment a top priority. In January, in response to Trump's criticism, Ford scrapped plans to build a factory in Mexico and instead added 700 jobs in Michigan. In March, it said it would invest more than $1 billion and create another 130 jobs in the state.
All right, and we're bringing a bit of bling to our business lineup this evening. How's this for a pricey piece of jewelry? You're looking at the Apollo and Artemis diamonds, the world's most expensive earrings, and they've sold at auction for just $57 million, which, believe it or not, was considered the low end of the expected price range. The dazzling pink and blue pear-shaped diamonds were actually offered up separately, but a private buyer snapped up both. Well, you just couldn't separate the two. Anyway, let's take a quick break, but don't go away. We'll be checking out this wingsuit Daredevil's late